Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next session in the innovation stream, where we talk about seamless automation. How can we use Flowable to integrate with a lot of different Microsoft technologies, like Microsoft Teams, Outlook, even OpenAI we're going to use, and everything running in the Azure cloud infrastructure. So that's basically what we're going to talk about in today's talk. And with that said, I'll hand over to Roger, who takes us through the table of contents.
Yes, thank you very much, Micha. As Micha already said, Flowable and Azure are a bit the topics of today. Let's see what we're going to do today. This follows a short introduction of both of us so that you know a bit who's talking to you. Then we will have a look what actual integrations do we have in the Azure services from Microsoft. What's around there? What are we currently cooking there? Then we will have a look at a sample use case that is very sophisticated, I have to say. I could show you that then, and you will also show you a demo of that use case. Of course, will consist of two parts. First thing, you will just look how it works directly in the browser and see what you can do there. And the second part will be the actual models that Micha will show to you. Yeah, after that, we will have a Q&A session. We actually have Matthias in the call who is picking up all your questions that you have a bit in the background. So if you have any questions, just put them into the chat and Matthias will sort them out. And as said, after the talk, after the demo, we will have, hopefully you will be able to answer all your questions that you have there.
Which means you can already throughout the talk, you can post your questions as they arise. But at the end, again, of course, you can also additionally add questions. So we'll do our best to try to answer them.
We will try. So yeah, indeed. Thanks, Micha. Good. Let me shortly start with introducing myself. So my name's Roger. I'm a senior solution architect at Flowable, based in Switzerland, Zurich. So I'm doing that now since about 8 years, so very long time. And what I'm doing is actually really working with customers and integrating their services into Flowable. So I'm quite experienced with that. That's also why we do the talk here and why I have a bit the overview of what our customers are doing. And that's the reason why we saw, okay, Azure is quite a big topic to cover here that we wanted to show you right now.
When you say 8 years, you mean like you have been there from almost the get-go of Flowable, right?
Yeah, indeed, actually. Actually, almost from the beginning of the company. That's true, yeah.
Cool. All right, my name is Micha. I'm one of the founders and CTO at Flowable. I'm also living in Switzerland. And as you probably can guess, I'm absolutely passionate about the product innovation, product development. But I'm also very customer focused. So I'm also working a lot with strategic projects, mostly when it comes to high scale, running Flowable at high scale, and also help out sometimes in sales, pre-sales, running some POCs. I really love to see the product at the customer in the market so we can have direct feedback back into product development.
Yeah, some of you already might know Micha because he's actually did a lot of our streams. You might probably know him from other technical streams there. He's streaming a lot.
All right. So why did we pick Azure for today's session? Flowable is not only running in Azure, obviously. We can also do with other hyperscalers like AWS. We also have other customers running in AWS. But we picked Azure because, as you can see in those three magic quadrants from Gartner, that they are really leading, one of the leading hyperscalers out there when it comes to cloud infrastructure, data science, and machine learning. I think their joint venture with the OpenAI platform is a really great move. You will also see that today in today's session, by the way. And yeah, so the AI development services are really great in the Azure platform. That's why for today's session, we have chosen Azure as kind of the foundation for what we want to show. But it's not only because we like it, but we also see that a lot of our customers are actually using Azure as their cloud platform. As mentioned before, we also have customers running in AWS. So Flowable is basically, you can run it in any of those hyperscalers. But Azure is probably by far used most by our customers.
Indeed, and we actually also use Flowable for our Azure for our own cloud solution. You know, Flowable as a service, as you wish. We also use Azure to operate that.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of experience there. And of course, you as mentioned, you can run in any of those, but the more you want to also use those native services, you have to pick one over the other. So what are popular services are we going to see and use today? Just to name a few, of course, Azure provides way more services, but we use the user and permission management, identity management from Azure based on Active Directory. We also have some integration with SharePoint to get content like documents into Flowable. We use AI as we will see in the use case that Roger will introduce us to, where we pick and choose AI to run the whole use case. And of course, everybody uses, or a lot of people uses Outlook or Teams. So we also wanted to have native integrations with those services. And you could even use Power Automate for smaller tasks in between if you want to use that as well. So there's a lot of services that I can integrate with, and Flowable being kind of like the orchestration on top of all those services.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Flowable is kind of a orchestration platform. It is, and we're not able only to use like REST services and stuff like this. These are actually real life back office applications used by a lot of our customers, and we also are able to orchestrate these into workflows so that for the benefit of our customers and their customers, actually. Yeah.
I think what it really helps us, as we will see in the live demo afterwards, is creating really nice end-to-end user journeys that go seamless with the tool you already know. So you don't have to go to, for instance, to an application. You could just do some of your simple tasks directly in Teams, use email as your communication, things like that. So really focusing on end-to-end user journeys, optimizing them. Now, when we go a little bit deeper, what are we going to see today? We have a lot of integrations, or sometimes we call them connectors or integrations with some of the Azure cloud services that we're going to see today. So first of all, we are going to use Entra SSO for single sign-on. I think even with multi-factor authentication enabled, if I'm not mistaken, Roger, right?
Yeah, indeed.
So the entities or the identities, the users are actually managed within Entra, and we kind of map them into the Flowable platform. We
exactly.
use
that's former Active Directory, Azure Active Directory service. This was renamed recently, so that's why it's all called Entra now. But it was former Active Directory, actually, indeed.
Right. We use SharePoint as document management system. So Flowable also, the platform has built-in content management capabilities. We will see a couple of those in today's demo as well. And then you can use the built-in document library or storage of Flowable, but you can also connect with SharePoint as an example. Then, of course, email is always still around. So we also integrate with an Outlook mailbox to kind of observe inbound emails we want to handle automatically through Flowable. We can do calendar integrations. We want to use Teams as a means of notifications, but also posting messages and even handling small tasks like review tasks or whatever, as you will see. And we also use the document intelligence services like extracting content from documents or categorization of documents, kind of like IDP sort of services, if you will. And we also see OpenAI in action throughout our process with the all new AI service or AI integration that we recently released in the last Flowable release. So we're going to have a quick look at that as well. And of course, you can also do Azure-based modeling, document analysis. So a lot of those connectors are out of the box within the Flowable platform. Some of them are still prototyping, kind of on a prototype state, but part of the roadmap that eventually will become out-of-the-box connectors of the Flowable platform.
Indeed, good. Yeah, let's have a look at the actual use case that we figured out. So we put our heads together and try to find something that is both kind of a generic enough so that is applicable to all our customers' businesses. So everyone can use it basically. So it applies to all the customers, but it also has to be using a lot of the Azure services that are provided by this platform. And yeah, we figured out a use case that is basically, it is what we see here. It is monitoring a inbox. So on the lower row, you actually see the automated stuff. So Microsoft provides some inbox there. It's probably on Exchange Online. You will have it there. And it's waiting there for incoming mails. So we have a normal inbox, can be kind of a support mailbox or an info box or something like this. And users are going to send mails there with some intent. Can be, as we will see, a lot of different things, like they want to change their address, they wanted to transfer some money, get some cleaning services. Really depends on your business, actually, that you're providing there. But yeah, that part here. And this is basically based on Graph API. So Flowable will using the Graph API to listen to that mailbox and then process the mails that are incoming there. It then goes on within the workflow, and we will automatically try to extract the intent of that mail. So what is it about? Is it about, yeah, I said an address change, or is it about transferring money, or what it is actually? What does the customer want from your services? And we're trying not only to extract the intent and see what that might be automatically by OpenAI. You don't have to do it. It's OpenAI and the artificial intelligence that will do that for you. We also will try to extract the important data from the email. So money transfer would be account numbers and stuff like this. Address change would be the new address, perhaps the old address. And the OpenAI is trying to extract that data directly and automatically from the email. Of course, we still need a bit of user support. Your employees, of course, wanted to kind of monitor what's going on there. So on the top, we have the user-driven part of the use case. So the user probably wants to log into your service, into Flowable actually. And as said, we're using the Entra single sign-on and Entra ID there to integrate your whole user base, your employees that you have already set up on your Active Directory. You wanted to integrate that into Flowable, and you wanted to have single sign-on with multi-factor authentication there to log into Flowable. Then you probably want to extend the mail a bit. Perhaps you've seen the mail, but something is missing. So you wanted to upload additional stuff that also needs then to be processed by the AI. You can, for example, upload additional documents. And there we have, for example, the SharePoint integration that you can use there. So we have access to SharePoint, to your SharePoint and documents that are there. And if you wanted to attach a document that you have on SharePoint, you can really easily do that, as you will see. And then finally, I have to say no AI without user review. Rule number one, you have to make sure that the AI is not doing fantasy stuff. So we have a review task here where you actually can review the data that has been extracted by OpenAI. And we wanted to go a bit a different way there. Of course, you will, as you will see, have tasks within Flowable directly to review that data. But usually that's sometimes a bit awkward for users when they have to go always into Flowable. I mean, it's cool when users visit our application, of course, but it's also cool when users are getting notified directly in Teams, so that you get a notification directly in Teams. And not only a notification, wouldn't it be cool if we can send, let's say, the form that we use for the review with all the data, the form that we already modeled in Flowable Design, if we could send that directly to MS Teams so that you can fill out the data that you have, or review the data there, correct it directly in Teams and send the form back without even visiting our application. And that's what we're going to show. It's adaptive cards, actually, a Microsoft standard we're using there to convert our Flowable forms into adaptive cards and send them to MS Teams.
I think
so
that
that's
heavily,
yep, please.
that really depends a bit on the role, obviously, right? If you're working on a day-to-day basis throughout the day in Flowable anyway, you probably don't want that or don't need that. So you could then work on complex cases, forms, tasks, whatever, and you do that in Flowable. So we have the task list, dashboards, and everything that helps you navigate through your work. But for those kind of users that only get assigned with a task on an infrequent basis, let's say, Teams is a very great way. So you get in direct notification, you have to approve something or whatever. So those kinds of users might be really glad if they have something like Teams, so they don't even need to log into Flowable to just do a simple approval task or whatever.
Exactly. Important is you have the choice. It's up to you to decide, okay, what both, the user is doing, and you can do both. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Good, very well. I mean, so far for the theory. Now let's have a look how that is actually looking like. So we have a short demo to show that to you.
Cool.
Good. I switched to a browser window, as you can see here. And what you see here is a login screen of Microsoft. So as said, all the users that are going to use Flowable now here are already available within the Entra ID system of Azure, and we're now able to use these users to log into our application. So that's basically single sign-on. I now see here the screen of Shane Bone. I'm going to log in with that. I already authenticated with multi-factor authentication. That's not something we do. It's actually Azure itself or the Microsoft account that is doing the MFA there. So we just use it, and we can now use Shane Bone to actually log in to our application. I have to say the applications that you see now are fully running on Azure. So these are Azure App Services fully installed on the Azure platform, all together with a MS SQL database in the backend to run all the stuff there. We have Flowable Work, Design Control, everything installed on Azure. Good. Let me see if I can log in to Shane Bone here. Great. That's what you wanted to see. Let me try again. There we have it, logged in now. It probably was a timeout. That's I had
most likely, a
long time. That's because of this. Good, but I now have been able to log in, and as you can see in the lower left corner, we see that I'm now Shane Bone. I'm a client advisor for this. Let's call it whatever company that is. Can be banking, can be something else. And I have the appropriate permissions also given by Azure. And if I go to contacts, you actually see that, we have a lot of users there, like Annie Austin and Barton. These are, of course, example users we created, except, of course, for the both of us, like me, myself, and Micha Kiener, that are also in there. We actually are the administrators, of course. I mean, what else? And but you see also the images, like from all the users, they were imported into Flowable and presented here. And just to give you an overview, I will shortly switch to a browser window where we see the Azure platform. You see that here, and here you actually see the users that are assigned. So you see them and you see the icons, the images, the photos of the users that have been used here in Azure. And this is what we fetching from Azure directly into Flowable. So that is also visible there. So we have that full integration with help of Azure ID and with help of the Graph API. So it's not what you usually need to do, like enable some LDAP system to access these users. That goes all over Graph API, which is the suggested way also by Microsoft to fetch these user data. Good, so far for the login. Let's go now to our inbox. I have that in a browser here. And you see here that this is our inbox. So what you see here is basically Outlook. That's some Outlook of some, let's say here, this is the Flowable inbox, we called it. And here the Flowable inbox is basically waiting for emails. Of course, as a user, you do not go into that mailbox here. You really let Flowable now handle that inbox. So let me send an email to that inbox here. I've prepared a short window, like from Gmail, to send that to you. So I'm going to send that to this inbox at Flowable Consulting Lab on Microsoft.com. And I wanted to notify that service about me moving to a different location. So we
could say that this could be kind of like the service desk of a company like a bank or whatever. You just send that email, and we want to basically automate as much as possible handling those emails, extracting intents, as we will see, and just help the service desk employees to be faster by handling all those intents.
Exactly. Why do we have to kind of go through all the mails manually when there's an AI that can at least do some proper extraction of the data already? So we do not have that all by ourselves. We wanted to be the help of the AI here. Exactly. As you see here in the mail, I'm not going to read it by your own, but it's basically two things. I'm notifying about me moving to a different location. And also, I wanted to increase my limit on my credit card to 10,000.
You can try at least.
Yeah, let's try. Let's see what happens. It's always good to kind of cover things behind also something different, the address change or something. Perhaps it goes through. Let's see what happens. Good. I have also an attachment here, by the way. We will see it later directly in Flowable. It's just that you notice that I've added a Word document here to that mail that will be also picked up by Flowable, actually. So I'm sending that out here now. And then we probably have to wait a bit until this arrives in our inbox. Of course, the whole filtering is now done, like checking for viruses and seeing if it's spam. But hopefully, at some short time, it will get in here and see if that happens. Give it a second. There it is now, arrived. And as you can see, this is now a new mail. And Flowable starts processing now. It will process that email, and as soon as it is done, you will see that here, because actually the mail will be marked as read, and it will be marked as processed. And that happened right now, as you can see. So it's now read, as you can see. And we also got that check mark here where we see, okay, that mail has already been processed now, and it will not be considered for further processing, so that we do not have mails twice and stuff like this.
We will. We have used the channel and event mechanism within Flowable to actually do that. So we will see later in the second part with the models that we have a event model that is based on an email, and the channel goes into the Outlook mailbox. So Flowable gets notified if a new email is arrived, and it processes it as an event, and then we can basically trigger within Flowable whatever we want.
Exactly. So let's go back to Flowable and see what has arrived there. So I'm going to work and to the inbox there, and we see, okay, we got a new process, inbound email, and we see that we have actually 2 tasks. Let me go. We have a nice case view over here that we can use, where we can see all the stuff that is incoming. So we see the from, the subject, we see the actual mail content already been extracted, and we see, of course, the attachments. So like the attachment that I have here with the new location, so I added a little map here, and the email itself also added as a attachment to that case here.
We are using the content features, content management features of Flowable here. Maybe you guessed when we saw the attachment, Roger was actually uploading a Word document. What we do, we create renditions so we can directly render and show it as part of the UI. So you don't have to download it first and open up in Word. It basically gets rendered as a PDF behind the scenes, so we can directly see it and render it in the UI.
And it's always cool when you already see what you're going to expect
exactly.
within the mails directly here in the overview. That's very helpful. Yeah, let's guess that's not all. We missed something. So that's now a user that see, okay, I now got a phone call from the customer, and he has some additional information to provide, and he sent me a document. I've added that to SharePoint, and now I wanted to add that to that case here too that has been created. So I'm going to upload a SharePoint document here. We already see the existing email attachment, and I have now a document on SharePoint. Let's shortly switch over to SharePoint and how that looks like. I have it here on a other browser tab, and you will see that actually within the Flowable Consulting Lab space, we have a folder documents general, and within that folder we have a file called the account data PDF, and I would now like to upload that document to Flowable. So when we are in Flowable, we have that upload component here as a form, and there's a small SharePoint icon actually that I can hit, and then you will see, okay, that's the connection to SharePoint now. You will see here all the spaces that I have, and we saw, okay, it was Flowable Consulting Lab, and then Documents, General, and we actually see, okay, cool, we have the account data here. So select that, submit, and complete the task, and then we actually have uploaded that document to the case. It's going to create a rendition also here. That's probably why that takes a while, but yeah, we can then go to the overview as soon as it's done. Let's go back to the overview, and we see here, okay, that's that document here, the account data. Let's have a look on it. It's just some additional information about the account transfer, probably that's going to happen. And yeah, there you see all the documents now.
Can you quickly go to the extracted intents to see what the AI actually did behind the scenes?
Yeah, exactly. You didn't even notice that, but the AI already did its job here. That was all happening in the background without even you noticing. So when we go here, you already see, okay, OpenAI tried to extract the intent, and you see the following intents have been detected. So it's first of all an address change. Great, the address is enough, is right. And we have the change of the credit card limit to 10,000. So extraction was quite well here. That's okay. But of course, we have now to review that information. Is it actually correct, or was it somehow wrong? And we now have, of course, a user that is having to review that data, and you can do that as mentioned in 2 different ways. Like you can go to the open tasks here and review that data directly here in Flowable. So you can open the task and check if that credit card information here is correct, or if you take the other one, we can see, okay, that's the address here. Is that correct? I can also change it here. But as said, there's a simpler way to do. Like, why do we have to enter Flowable to do that? Why not sending out exactly that form that we have here directly to Teams? And let's switch to Teams that I've opened there, and hopefully a message, a notification arrived directly in Teams. Let's see if we have that here. So if I switch to my team channel, I can actually see, hey, cool. Here in my team channel, I got that exact form here, as you can see, with the same text, with the same fields, directly in Teams now as an adaptive card. I even have a link here, so I can directly access the Flowable from here. I can click on that when we would come to the task that we've already seen just before. And I can now correct that here if I want. So I can add some different data, and I can now complete that task here. So if I hit complete, it will actually send a request back to Flowable work and finish that case. Let's do that. Done. Good. We can now go to Flowable. Let's see here in the open overview. We have the other one that still needs to be claim first, so that I can edit it, and I need to complete it too. And that would be the moment, I guess, isn't it, Micha, when then my case will be completed?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's complete that.
I think at least it should. I think what we saw here was really creating, reading that email or monitoring that email inbox that basically sends an event to the Flowable platform when a new email arrives that basically starts processing it. But we even can interact with the automation if we want and need to, like reviewing what has been detected by AI, to just review it, give it a go, and things like that. But the rest was kind of like traditional process and case management.
Exactly. So we refresh here and we see now, okay, our case is gone. It's now under completely completed. So we have it still here. You see, it's not the first test that we did here, but yeah, worked quite well. And we have the extracted intent here as wished.
If you can quickly navigate to the case view again.
Yep.
And then go to audit on the left-hand side.
Left-hand side, the audit,
yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So what we typically also do in Flowable, we want to have a clear audit, what happened. So we see the inbound email was extracted, we extracted the attachments, we detected the intents, we extracted the structured data, and so on. So it's always good to have a clear audit trail on your end-to-end business processes and business cases. That's what I want to quickly show. Cool.
Cool, very well, thank you very much. So yeah, now that we have seen how it works and what is it doing actually, let's have a look at the actual models that are behind that. Micha, can you show us a bit how you did that in Flowable design?
Of course. Thanks, Roger, for taking us through the live demo. Now, we want to see behind the scenes. As you can see on the screen, we now see Flowable design here. I have different workspaces that allows you to organize all your apps within Flowable design. And we are going and dive into the today's demo app, basically, which takes us to the overview, where you can see the most important models within the app, typically the root models, like in our case, it's the process inbound email case model. But we could also have data dictionaries, data models, and dashboards and things like that, the revisions and everything that basically is on top of the app. We can also go and see all the different models we have used for today's use case. But the one we want to get started on is our case model. So we basically handle an end-to-end email use case that we saw live as a case, which is not necessary. You could also just use a process, but it gave us quite some nice additional features like the case view, the overview, and things like that. And we divided the process into 3 parts called stages in the CMMN. That's the standard we use for modeling cases, which is extracting the email and attachments. So that's just one box here, kind of like on the overview. If I go and drill down here, I see BPMN as a means to model processes. We see that we basically create the mail document as a document within the case. We create the audit entry. That's what we saw on the list. We extract all the attachments. Could be 0 attachment, could be n attachments. That's why we do it repetitively until we have extracted all of them. So that's the first part of the process. The second one is extracting the intents. Now we're going into a very interesting part, how we do that. Here, I'm going to detect the intent. It's kind of like a service task, if you know BPMN a bit. But we have, if I switch to the actual service, we see that we use the AI type. That's the new one that we have introduced in our latest release, introducing all the AI capabilities within the Flowable platform. Of course, I could also use REST, script, expressions, Java beans, and things like that. But in
so you can actually use exactly the same model both for REST services and for AI. That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
So let me show you how the intent recognition worked. So basically, if I go to intent, you see that we can define input for the AI service. In our case, it's just text, right? So the whole email content, totally unstructured. But the interesting piece is, well, let me go to address extraction. That's a bit more structured. So the input is basically the email content that we extracted through the email event. And then we basically want to tell AI, hey, I need structure. I cannot handle just the unstructured text, the content, right? I would like you to extract the street, house number, zip code, and so on. The cool thing is, when we define or engineer the prompt, I should say, we can then tell AI what or how to treat that content and how to transform it into the structure we want to have. But that's kind of like what Flowable does behind the scenes. You don't have to take care about how to actually tell or request AI to do that. You can.
So I'm not getting text as an answer. I'm getting really structured data.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So here we can engineer the prompt, but of course that takes a bit of time. You want to improve your prompt, and that's why we directly integrated the testing directly into Flowable Design.
That's
so
cool.
I could say I moved new location at and then let's see what AI does. And as you can see, it basically really provided structure as a means. We use JSON here as a format. Now the interesting
so I can actually test during development time already my service.
Yeah, we didn't want you to always have to deploy, run the case, and then see, oh, I have to improve. You can directly do that going back and forth in design. Maybe you ask, where is the zip code coming from? Where is Germany coming from? It was not part of
you didn't provide that one, no?
Of my content.
No, you didn't.
That's magic. If you go back to the prompt, you see that I basically added, if there is no zip code provided and you have enough information, that's very important to tell AI not to hallucinate, right? Not just to invent something, but if you have enough information, and obviously I did with Stuttgart, it can actually look up the zip code for you. And
so the AI did that. So cool.
And I double checked. It's our.
It's even correct. Yeah.
It's our office address in Stuttgart, so it is the correct one. So that's pretty cool. That's how we did all the intent recognition, all the extraction of address data, payment data, account data, credit card data. That's basically how you model those services. And as you can see here, you can just use them, and then you do the mapping. Let's see what you do here. You say my input is my content of the email that I got. The output is saved as intents. And that's how you do it. Simple as that. Now, the thing I wanted to quickly show before we have to wrap up was how did that case get started? And here you see when we go to the case model, we see that we mapped it to what we call an inbound event. As we mentioned before, we have channels and event models within Flowable that can tap into what we see today, email inbox, but it could also tap into a messaging system like Kafka, JMS, what have you. And if I go here, we see the mail event. That's a model itself in Flowable. We see we mapped the from, we have the subject, the content. That's what you saw that we mapped into the AI, attachments, and so on. That's basically what we fetch from through the Graph API from the inbox, and then we basically can map those fields directly into the case here. So we say, okay, I don't care about the ID. Maybe if I would want to do something more technical or so, I might want to use it. I only map from, subject, content, attachments. That's what I want to process in my case. That's how you basically tap into that inbox with the Flowable connector that we have there. I'm not going into all the details here. We can also look at the case view. That was the left-hand side navigation that we saw, like the audit trail. That's also
could you shortly show, if you have time, the task that has been sent to
Teams?
Good
one. Absolutely. So detect intention, and maybe the next one is the interesting one, this one, because it has more data. So we mapped our content from the email. We got back structured information, and that's really cool. So using AI in a very structured way, so you can automatically process that data any further. You don't need a human to actually read it. And then, of course, we still wanted to manually review it. That's the last section here. And we did that by using this manual user task. It's exactly the same a model as we use within Flowable. So it's a user task. It has an attached form, as you can see, that we basically modeled, and that was rendered within Teams.
Teams as an adaptive card, then exactly.
Yeah, because we basically said, hey, send it to Teams before processing. For instance, as an addition, this one I didn't want to send to Teams. It's just too much data, maybe, or for whatever reason. So you can really say which one of those user tasks we want to actually send to Teams. Cool.
So cool.
All right. So that basically wraps it up, what we wanted to show in our today's session. Also giving you a bit of background information how the whole modeling was done behind the scenes. And now let's wrap it up and see if Matthias is ready for the Q&A session.
Yeah, he is. Thank you so much for that great talk, Micha and Roger. I think
it was a bit long, wasn't it?
Well, it was great, and I think you made the best out of it. Let's jump right into the questions, I would say. Let's start with the first question from Nico, who's asking, are the connectors here going to be made available in future versions, for instance, MS Teams? I think that's for you, Micha, maybe?
Yep, I can get that one. I think we mentioned it briefly, that some of the integrations that we showed in the demo are already part, like SharePoint, for instance. The Teams one, the Outlook, and so on, they're on the roadmap, so we're working on it. Maybe some of them might even make it into the December release. But they're on the roadmap. So we will have a lot of the Azure and the Microsoft connectors in the product out of the box.
That's great to hear. And as always, Flowable allows you to use the service registry, the generic one.
Of course. Yeah, that's also what we used for some of the other services.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. Then we have a question from Deepak. Does Flowable offer pre-built connectors or templates for integrating with Microsoft applications like Power Automate, Teams, SharePoint to streamline business processes? Or do we need to rely on Microsoft APIs for integration? I think that's also up your alley, Micha.
I think it's pretty much the same. So some of the connectors will be part of the product, but it doesn't stop you doing it already if they are not yet part of the product. So if you want to have, for instance, Power Automate integration, which then offers you a lot of more stuff that I can do within the Microsoft universe, that's pretty easy to do with the existing service registry, service definition based on REST. You can already do that today.
And SharePoint specifically, we already have a connector.
Yes.
So
yeah.
this is
yeah.
Okay. Then we have a couple questions from Michel, who's asking what Graph API has to do with Entra SSO and ID, noting that this is authentication and identity management. You want to take over, Roger?
Yeah, you can do that, of course. Basically, the Graph API is the way to access the data in Entra ID. So Entra ID is the service of Azure that contains all the users and the groups and stuff like this. And we use the Graph API to access that data. So there is a functionality in Entra ID where you can enable like an LDAP or something to access that data, but it's usually considered as a security threat to enable LDAP on a cloud service. So mostly admins don't like that. That's why we access that data with help of Graph API actually. And do the authentication against Graph API with OAuth 2 and service account there and fetch that data directly from the Entra ID repository there.
Okay, great. And then also from Michel, also going into the same direction, when and how the users are synchronized into Flowable from Entra ID. And he's asking whether we are using SCIM or SCIM.
I can take that. The data is actually on the fly, is taken on the fly. So whenever you need it, the API is called and provides you with the actual set of users or set of groups or one single user. So there's no caching in Flowable like that. We synchronize that somehow into our database. That's not what we do. The internal IDM that we have in Flowable is completely deactivated. So every call is directly going to Azure and we get the data directly from there. Because synchronizing always gives you a lot of issues with outdated data and stuff like this that you have to manage. So that's not how it works. It is a bit like probably you already know the LDAP functionality for the IDM of Flowable. It works exactly the same way, but not with LDAP, but with the Graph API and the Entra ID. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Another one from Michel, also regarding Entra. He's asking, will Flowable also provide a built-in integration with Azure Entra for task assignments, workspace access? If so, is documentation already available on how to configure it into Flowable?
Yeah, currently we focused on the integration of the IDM, but I mean, we have the Graph API. Theoretically, whatever the Graph API can do, we can do too. It's not part of that IDM mechanism that because that's very well integrated into Flowable. But if you use the service registry, as mentioned before, you can also call the Graph API and do whatever you want there, raising tasks and do stuff like this.
Mm-hmm. And then the final question also from Michel is, in the demo, we upload the SharePoint documents into Flowable. Does it mean it's copied, or is it just a reference with the same features available, like the preview inside the case overview, for example? So
yeah, actually, you can do both. You can really do both. There's a small little checkbox where you can define, okay, it should be copied, or it should be just referenced. You can choose it from use case to use case as you wish.
Okay, great. So next question, by the way, people can still post their questions. We still have 1 or 2 more minutes left. Samit is asking, does the Teams channel have to be a pre-established one, or would it look for the user's ID and create a new chat instance? I think the master of infrastructure, Roger, can also tell us about this.
I didn't show that actually. Yeah, that was a bit took a bit too long. But there's actually a bot in the backend, and you need to install an app, the Flowable adaptive cards app into Teams, and wherever the chat or the group you install that app into is the one that receives the messages, actually. So you can think of it like that group would be kind of a candidate group in Flowable. And if the task is assigned to a specific user, then the app will search for that specific user within the Teams group there, and try to send it directly to the user if it is there. But of course, that has to be set up the right way, so it has to match a bit. But usually when you get the groups from Azure for Flowable and also for Teams, that should match, I would say.
All right, great answer. Then we have one more question from Wole. Can we get access to the demo app? I think I'll relay that to Micha.
I think if you ask very politely in the contact form, you might be able to do it. I think what we will do probably is simplifying it a bit, so you don't have to run it in the Azure environment, but only on Flowable itself. That's probably something we will do. Maybe we will even add the new stuff that we were working currently on, which is the case Copilot. That would fit in pretty nicely. So giving you a background information about, mapping the document types, document content back to the email. Does it match? Does it make sense? And things like that. But yeah, just post that question again in the contact form on the Flowable website, and we will be able to get back to you.
Okay, good. I think there's two more questions. We will start with an easy one from Bharat. For AI, is it only connected to OpenAI, or can we use other providers?
No, it's not only available for OpenAI, although that's currently kind of like the default we're using. But we're basically using an abstraction behind the scenes, which is based on Spring, to tap into various different LLMs. So you can actually use multiple ones, and not only OpenAI. Also, we for this demo, we used the one in Azure. Of course, behind the scenes, it's still OpenAI, but it also allows you, for an uplift in pricing, to use your very private LLM. Well, still a large LLM, but your data doesn't leave your tenant, which for some of the use cases might really be interesting, to make sure that your data that you send to AI, like we showed in the use case, the whole email attachments, maybe you don't want to send it to a public thing like OpenAI. You want to do it and keep that data in your Azure tenant, and that's possible as well.
All right, and then also on the topic of AI, Deepak is wondering if we need to implement exception handling when integrating AI services, invalid data, unexpected responses, model failure, inaccuracies, and so on. In the end, yeah, it's just another output, but what do you think?
At the end of the day, I think as we showed in Flowable Design, an AI-based service is just a specific, like any other service, REST-based, script-based, whatever. And we have built-in error management, so you can even react on a model level. What happens if error code comes back like a 400 or whatever, and it's not successful, or if the service is not is down at the minute? It's the very same like for other services, but if you want to go and even look into the response itself, that's obviously a bit more tricky, and that's where we also used those manual reviews. I think it really depends also on the prompt management. You could also add something like, hey, give me back, how certain are you that the extracted intent or data is actually valid? And then based on that response, route to a manual review, or say, no, it's good enough, so go directly to process it fully automatically. I think that's really up to the overall business and the design. But the tooling to actually do that is all in Flowable.
All right, good. I think we need to wrap it up at this point. Thank you so much,